OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
All right, a very good morning to you. Welcome along this Monday morning to OTB AM. We're here with you until 9:30. We're here every day of the week, and we can be a radio show, we can be a TV show, we can be whatever you want. You can get us on youtube.com/offtheball, or you can get us on the Go Loud app or offtheball.com/radio. Dan McDonald's here with us this morning. Dan, how are you?
Morning, Jar. I'm good.
What's going on?
Not much.
The league is over. We can relax now and need to watch the top of the table.
Yeah.
Whether or not Man City qualify for the Champions League next season is the only bit of jeopardy that's left, right?
Declare it over, yeah. I mean, I know Johnny Ward sometimes sits here. He got a lot of stick for declaring the League of Ireland title race over in April this year. And I saw someone pointing out last night that I think Mourinho's confidence was Johnny-esque, in terms of saying, this is it, this is done. It's not done.
Do you not think it's done?
No.
Really?
I don't think so. No, not when they still have to play them once, and then it's you're 2 results away from sort of making things interesting. So it doesn't. I mean, I do think Liverpool will win the league now. I never felt that really at any point last season, because City were. In some ways you have to lose one to win one to a degree, and Liverpool had their time in front last year, whereas they seem to have sort of learned from it, or there just seems to be that Villa game, for example, that ability to win. You think, okay, well then they should be okay. The flip side is they were still 1 down away to Villa after 85 minutes. You know what I mean? So they're not sort of
they did bad Villa though.
They did, but they've had a lot of late goals, which is a credit to their amazing sort of. It's not just spirit. Spirit just makes it sound like they're sort of grinding it. It's ability. It's ability merged with sort of spirit.
Resilience, conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. And but they still, there have been times in games where they've been in a bit of bother. So and they do have the World Club Cup coming up in December as well, and that will ask things of them. So it's completely plausible that they will drop sort of 3 to 6 points, in that window. They play City again, so it's not done. But you think that as front runners this time they'll be much more comfortable than they were last time.
It is done though, really, at this stage of the season.
you just want your soundbite. Well, it's over.
No, it feels over because Leicester City aren't going to win the league this year. It doesn't feel like Leicester City are as good as. Look, I think actually of the teams who are left, Leicester and Chelsea might be able to put up more of a battle over the rest of the season than the City team do at the minute, because they seem like a rabble. Their defence is absolutely shot.
Yeah, I know.
And it almost feels like we're reaching that point in the cycle where Guardiola starts to annoy the team so much that they're like, okay, I'm a very seasoned international footballer with loads and loads of money. I don't actually need to listen to your crap anymore. You were supposed to win us the Champions League. Where's our Champions League, Pep?
Maybe they're just going to win the Champions League now instead.
Maybe.
That becomes the focus. But
this defence doesn't fill you full of.
No, and you don't trust. I think it's the problem more so than anything debating Liverpool's sort of strengths or whatever and weaknesses. It's more so, well, in every scenario, probably Man City need to go on a winning run of sort of a 14-15 match almost perfect sequence. You think that would be necessary, and can you necessarily trust them to do that? Then no. There were still passages in the game yesterday though where they were very good, and they managed to get sucker punched twice in the first 20 minutes, even though they played a lot of football in that period. So you still think that when they're on it, they are capable of anything really. But yeah, it's a test, but probably not the worst time for them to have a bit of an international break now, though, in a way, rather than the momentum from this defeat sort of carrying on into something else, that they can maybe take stock a small bit and come back and go into this run where Liverpool have to head away, and that might just sort of
stop Liverpool a bit.
Well, you would think that
Pep.
That's still going to be, it's still something new that they haven't encountered before. And it can be. I know that they're going to Qatar. It's not as if they're sort of, they'll probably have a pretty high-class, first-class flight to get there. So it's not as if it's going to be massively fatiguing. They might. It's not unusual for teams to nip off to Dubai mid-season for a training break, but it still is extra games. And I think if City are going to do anything, they need to probably have a perfect run as far as the new year anyway, and be sort of within sort of 4, 5, 6 points. I think if the gap remains at that size at the turn of the year, I think you can probably accept that it's over. But I think the time will be.
So really, it feels like all Liverpool need to do is get to the end of the World Club Championships with a 9-point lead, and from that point, you can't really see them blowing this.
Yeah, you can see it spacing out in January, and there's no European games at that point, and. They can do whatever they want to do about the FA Cup, etc. And so that's the win. It's just Christmas coming off the back of this trip they've got coming up. That would be the only window where you think, okay, that'll test them. But I mean, their squad looks pretty deep, and that's an area that's been addressed. So you'd think they'll be able to handle it. But I just wouldn't declare it as over yet when they still have to come through that.
Claudia Bravo on goals, Walker, Stones, Fernandinho, and Angelino is your back four, and you've been in charge for 3 years, and basically. The club have been doing your bidding in the transfer market for about 18 months before that, and this is the back four and goalkeeper you put out for an early season title decider. Somebody somewhere needs to take responsibility for the fact that this City squad is not strong where it's supposed to be strong.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, they've also signed some players who I know, like Mendy's had injuries and so on. But they've also signed some players that either haven't worked or Pep doesn't trust them, or when they would have been sort of flagged as a marquee level of signing at the time. Like Mendy, the summer he was brought in, it was like, well, they are addressing a problem position and strengthening in an ominous way. I mean, it's a bit unfortunate with a couple of the injuries, but. Like the whole measure of a title team is overcoming that. I mean, Liverpool did have to do without Alisson for a while at the start of the year. So like it's not exactly a sob story, the City situation. I mean, the pores, like it's lucky that he's out, but it's amazing that actually how they've struggled without him in particular, and the extent to which the reliance on him. I know Sky reminded everyone a million times yesterday that the man in the studio, Vincent Kompany, wasn't replaced, but I mean, ultimately he probably wasn't, in terms of that sort of leadership type figure. And
could they make here come on one last season, because things haven't exactly worked out for Kompany. They've already turned Kompany into a director of football after.
Yeah, no, it'd be an interesting career move for him. I kind of wonder, would it be one of these ones where, I mean, I'm going to say no, right? But let's just take this hypothetical scenario and imagine.
Why not though?
Well, it is one of these things where. Obviously, Scholes come out of retirement, but I'm thinking of other examples. Like Stephen Carr was like an Irish example of a player who had so many injuries for most of his career, and then retired for a couple of months, and all of a sudden, just the inactivity cleared up those problems. And came back, fresher than ever, and got a season. Actually, Stephen Carr got a couple of seasons out of it, but. I'm not really seeing it as a plausible scenario at this stage.
Well, if you're City, what do you? So I presume there's no transfer, it's not too late to add him to your supplement.
I know if someone's a free agent, but it depends. I doubt he's registered as a player when he became manager. Did he? I wonder if he did. Then they're screwed. They can't do that.
Okay,
if he's a completely free agent, then it's possible. But I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to come to that. But they should have the depth to cope.
I know, but
they have the best academy team, and you speak to say Kev.
Where are they?
You speak to the Kev and who would have Kev Kilban, who would have sort of spoken to people at City about the amazing academy team that they have. The sort of minimum salary. They're all the best of the best recruited from around the world. That's why when Gavin Bazunu went from here to Shamrock Rovers, there was so much excitement because you're going into this elite environment, but. I suppose not ready-made in the sense that they're able. I mean, Angelino actually was there, then headed off to PSV and was brought back. So they've had a couple of them evolved and around the place, but maybe not to the extent that they're just ready-made to come in if there's a bit of a crisis.
I think Phil Foden was the only one from the academy on the bench yesterday. Jesus, Silva, Mahrez, Cancelo, Otamendi, Scott Carson, and Phil Foden.
Yeah, it says Angelino was there, and they went and they exercised the buyback. It is true. To have
one subpar left back and one sub who is unused for the biggest academy, best academy, most heavily invested in academy in world football. It's the Man City experiment is not working.
I wonder though, is that the average rate though for an academy presence? I know the Manchester United stats are incredible in terms of the number of sort of youth team products they generally have had around an unbroken run of having someone in the first team squad over a period of time.
Yeah, okay. So,
but even in the best case scenario, I'm not sure if an elite Premier League or La Liga club will have any more than 4 or 5 maybe around the squad, you know? That's probably the realistic ratio. Yeah, no, I think even, that's what you want to think you'd be aspiring towards, just that doubling of it.
Yeah.
But are they producing a certain type of player? You know, is heading into a broader debate, is your academy ever going to produce the completely sort of no-nonsense centre-half, you know, who they might actually need.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily the type of players that you would associate with academy football, with under-23 football. They generally come to it from a different way.
Yeah, so Liverpool only had Trent Alexander-Arnold in theirs, I think.
It's probably, it's never going to be any more than a couple, but they could probably do it more of a return if it is as sort of awesome as we are told that it is.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a souffle of hype.
It's an expensive one, but but then again, if they can get 1 or 2 players out of it when they're paying on average around 80 million a player, then what's the measure of what's the measure of success? Like, the City model seems to be that even if they don't necessarily make it at City, they do sell them on generally for a good price. I'm very familiar with this from Gavin Bazzunu's case from going from Rovers, that even if it doesn't happen for him at City, and he did actually travel with the first team squad to the game at Southampton recently, but Angus Gunn was the goalkeeper who was there before, who was sold for, I don't know, I think it was like 12-15 million quid off the top of the head. So the Chelsea one, you know, was more erratic in terms of the million players out on loan at various times, and their return was questionable.
Yeah, and now they're reaping the reward of that.
Well, eventually now Chelsea actually are looking like a Model 1 now.
Yeah.
They've got to 4 or 5.
Last question on this. Is this the beginning of the end for Pep? Is this the start of the end? We've seen the stress get to him at Barcelona. We've seen the relationship fracture with Bayern Munich. And it's a limited lifespan. It's not quite the Mourinho as predictable as clockwork as
the
Mourinho's
3-year
was.
cycle with Mourinho.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a million miles away from it, though.
Yeah, no,
miles away.
I'm not so sure. I think he's still got stuff to do at City. As I said, they still have a Champions League campaign ongoing. So I'm sort of loath to declare it as like this is it. You know, I think that's still something to provide a firm focus to their season, even if the league doesn't drift. Then that becomes a stifling sort of pressure around their European games.
It does, yeah.
And maybe in March and April you're having this discussion again. But
luckily,
while that's
nobody
there,
at the games though. So.
Oh yes, yeah. Wow. Such a charming project overall, the City one, really, isn't it?
Dave Carr on Twitter says, Liverpool had Alisson out for 8 games and didn't drop a point. We were missing our centre half yesterday for the biggest game of the season. All teams get injuries. Get over it, he's basically saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's much of a City sob story at all in terms of like the injury problems they face. It's unfortunate to have a sort of a confluence of a couple of them at the same time, in the same area, but they should be equipped to deal with it.
Emma says Leicester on St Stephen's Day is the real title decider.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean,
they'll be coming back off they'll still have sort of Qatari memories at that point.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That could be one of the games. Yeah.
Look,
they dropped 2 points.
Throws up weird and wonderful results sometimes. Mr. Selt Reggae on YouTube says, lads, do you think people are underestimating Chelsea and Leicester to a lesser degree? If Chelsea turn over City straight after the international break, they certainly won't be. I think Chelsea just finishing in the top 4 this year will be a remarkable result for Lampard, given that it's his first full season and the transfer ban.
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, if they're they are, on points at the moment, they're comfortably ahead of Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester United. I mean, it's
like none of them.
Third would be an incredible season for Chelsea.
Yeah,
it really would.
And they should be aiming for second at the moment. I think that Man City are just going to. I don't know. I can't see City going on that amazing run. Here's what's coming up in the show for you. Kenny Cunningham, after his comments about Fabinho last week, he's back 8:05 this morning. So
a few comments about that I saw.
20 minutes, yeah, a lot of them. Use the hashtag OTB AM to get your questions in for Kenny Cunningham right now. So that's coming at 8:05. We'll bring you the sports news around about 8:30. It's Club versus Pep at 8:40. And then talking rugby at the weekend with Alan Quillen ahead of the return of the European Cup, the Heineken Cup, back in action next weekend. 2 live games for you here on Off the Ball as well. And then Pits and Peaks from the weekend at 9:05. Now, time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Funnily enough, it is Pep wagging his finger. I'm not sure if that's like he was. He did the Thank you so much. But then he did wave his finger as well at the referee.
He insisted he wasn't being sarcastic afterwards.
So seeing red, that might be that is the ref at the end of the game, isn't it? That's not the fourth official in the middle of it, because the fourth official he had the two fingers up going two times.
Yeah, I think that might be the end of the game, all right. But
yeah.
I mean, there was plenty of sideline histrionics to choose from.
Yeah,
photographer's dream, really.
Yeah, it was pretty sensational. So that is the Telegraph this morning. I've
got the back of the Indo here. It's actually on the discussion we were just talking about. Eamon Sweeney, Guardiola's defence in tatters, and just includes a quote from Eamon's piece inside. Guardiola being something of an anomaly, and his has been an aristocratic football life, far from the ordinary worries which affect managers at other clubs, like the ones Klopp has dealt with so brilliantly. So certainly Eamon Sweeney coming down strongly on the, I suppose, the concerns about Pep side of things. Is Pep Guardiola overrated, I think, which was the intro, which might be a bit strong for me, but it's a point of view contrasted with Jurgen Klopp's background at Mainz and has managed at a level of the game in a way that Pep hasn't, at a level that Pep hasn't managed at, and has it equipped him to deal with certain things. It's definitely a point of view.
Yeah, Barcelona B wasn't the equivalent. The Times here is Guardiola boils over. It's funny how he is the lead in the English papers. He's the main story in all the English papers, and then they've also got that Emery clings on at Arsenal for now. So word was leaking out yesterday from Arsenal, not officially, but they're going to give Emery until the end of the season. And then there's a nice little bit of detail here in the Times that there's a break clause at the end of the year, so you're going to have to pay him to the end of the year anyway. He may as well manage the club, and if he can turn it around, he turns it around. But they're still apparently interested in Mikel Arteta. Now, they had hired Mikel Arteta for this gig, basically with let's shake hands on this, Mikel. And then the phone went dead for 24 hours, and Unai Emery was suddenly the new manager at Arsenal the last time. So Arteta was super close to getting that job.
Yeah.
Would he go back now, having, fooled me once?
He still needs to make that breakthrough to a certain level.
There he is in the background, just there. But that's him. So when Pep goes, who's next? It's him, right?
Yeah. Well, that is the thing. Does he play the long game there? That is the tactical equation, or will he really be trusted? For our City are going to, with their project and how they do things, is it going to be a first managerial job for someone, the City gig? Maybe
not. Maybe he'll have to go and Patrick Vieira's doing Nice, isn't he?
He's not doing. I don't think Vieira's doing especially well. Vieira's reputation has taken a bit of a dent.
Right.
So
I was wondering, does it matter in some ways?
Vincent Kompany, of course. Then, as you said, he's been shown to the side a bit. So.
Luis Enrique's in the mix for Arsenal, I'm being told.
Right, yeah. I say, is the City generation of, I don't know if Vieira didn't play for City as such, but in the same way, Solskjaer coming back to United is the legend. City aren't going to bring in Paul Dickov or Nicky Summerbee. Do you know what I mean? They can't go to someone from their long. The 90s, early 2000s.
No.
They have to.
You're done, maybe.
Don't have enough of a recent dynasty to pluck into it. That emotive appointment, people thought when Henry went into management, well, this would be great. We'll get him to Arsenal someday. It hasn't really happened.
Well, I'm just looking at the
give City a generation.
The Liga standings at the moment, and Nice are 13th. It's not great.
No, hasn't sort of been rocking and rolling for a lot of. That French generation of players people thought might be top managerial figures.
Good managers, yeah.
What
have you got?
I got the mirror here. Thanks for nothing. Peps all shook up at ref after VAR controversy rules out the Trent handball. That same picture, it does look like that picture actually was after the handball that was or wasn't early in the game. It's a sort of big controversy. I would have thought Bernardo Silva handball would have been significant in the build-up to it as well. The way things are sort of applied these days, but
so for which goal? Sorry,
the first goal. That actually it came off Bernardo Silva's hand first, and then ricocheted across the area and came off Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously, and that was the flashpoint episode. But I know there's been a lot. To be honest, a lot of the VAR stuff is starting to bore me and bore me to tears because it just keeps going on and on and on. But I thought that the attacking player, if it hits their hand at any point in the attack, that they're potentially vulnerable to being punished.
So that should have been a free out.
That seems to be the view of, I think it was Bobby Madeley or someone was tweeting yesterday.
Can you play advantage?
Well, this was the expert rule that
should have been called back for a free kick to Liverpool.
That if it had gone to VAR, then it wouldn't have been a penalty because of what happened with Bernardo Silva initially.
Yeah.
That seemed to be this official's take on it, as if this is a bit of a non-issue. And then there's another thing over how long they played on for.
Yeah.
Which certainly when the VAR came in, I remember there was a case in the MLS, which was one of the first leagues to trial it, and sort of a similar, the nightmare scenario where there's an incident at one end, the other team breaks to the other and scores an amazing counter-attack sort of goal, and they eventually have to rule it off and call it back to give a penalty to the other side.
Yeah.
Sort of high drama, actually. But I just thought in this one, I don't know, it was laboured on the Man City misfortune with this, but I would have thought if the ball had been booted out for a throw-in, say, rather than a Liverpool attack, I'm not sure if they would have got the penalty that they...
Yes, so they don't even get the penalty in that one. It is a penalty in the second half though, right? There's another handball from Trent.
Oh, well, that was the one, the Sterling sort of from very close range.
Yeah, don't they always give those now?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a...
Yeah, no, I know that in commentary they were adamant that it shouldn't be a penalty.
Right.
So, because it was so close.
I know, but is that just because...
Yeah, I don't know. I should mention as well, sorry, the John Cross as well, as you mentioned, Arsenal will not be bullied by noisy fans to sack Emery. And then you have the Kerry final as well, which features across a couple of papers as well.
The Herald, the back page of the Herald this morning is, we can deal with heat, Klopp, what pressure asks Red Boss as City humbled. I don't think they're going to feel pressure from being 9 points up this time the way they would last season, for example. And it wasn't a real 9-point lead last year anyway, wasn't it? There were games in hands, etc.
Yeah, no, but they still had enough of a lead to consider it blowing it a small bit. No, I know what you mean. It was also City's relentless run. So it was pretty impressive as well. On the front of the Examiner Sport, here you're going for the mail.
No, Pep's so mad is just and it's just the same thing again. And then Clifford's are new rulers of Kingdom. Dr. Croke's dreams of a fourth successive county title were crushed yesterday by a rampant East Kerry. Yeah,
so I mean the front page of the Examiner Sports section is headed in the right direction. Reds open 8-point lead, and also as well, just the Cliffords and the Kerry story below. Anthony Daly, provincial titles won't do Ballygunner anymore, and then there's a reference to the racing at Navin, which I think will come onto the Racing Post. You mentioned that.
Yeah. So there was a big shock in the racing.
There was some good racing. The Apples Jade was beaten yesterday. It was really, really good racing at Navin. You can tell the winter is drawing in when the old household name horses are popping out again.
The Express, the back page there is handed to Reds, and Pep Guardiola with his hand out, his fingers up, pointing, shaking hands. Thanks very much.
It's kind of, here we go again. Back in the sun, we have again Pep with the two fingers up again. Did it cause a craze in Korea or somewhere?
Oh, did it?
Where I think like his symbol is synonymous with like some very popular band or something. It's gone viral there in a very different way. This is like massive news. Maybe I can't remember what the specifics were. We can pop it up. Again, Pep rages as ref ignores 2-pen claims. It was the Sun. It's crazy. And Klopp saying, I can't believe we're 8 points clear. And also, it's across a couple of the papers. On Kaiser, he's going. Aaron Connolly, a doubt for the Ireland's games with New Zealand and Denmark. He went off at half-time yesterday with a groin injury. And I think Mick McCarthy initially just thought he was taken off at half-time because Brighton were losing.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a bit more serious. So he's meant to make his home debut on Thursday at the Aviva. So it'd be pretty frustrating for him if he missed out.
Yeah, OK. The Irish Times is, Guardiola calls for clarity on handball decisions, and then concern over Connolly ahead of crucial Denmark date is that story that we've just been talking about. And Munster and Connacht resources stretched as European action looms. Obviously the return of the Heineken Cup at the weekend. We'll be talking in detail about that with Alan Quinlan a little bit later on. David McGoldrick did well at the weekend.
Excellent. He was really, really good.
Did score.
He did score with, again, we're not going into another...
His bonus.
But it was one of these VAR moves where, it was like five passes back into the sort of the play in American football terms, and it's actually a brilliant ball by Enda Stevens from McGoldrick. Sort of a sense of atonement for Stevens because he made a mistake a few moments earlier,
for the goal.
and then puts in a terrific pass, and McGoldrick scored. And of course we were in here at the time. It was around the time Stephen Kelly, and I don't know if you saw this over the weekend.
Yes, we did.
Do we even dwell on this? Stephen Kelly speaking about how You know, his grandfather had fought in the war, and
So he didn't mind wearing the poppy?
yeah, didn't mind very. And like, so you know, sometimes the topic of other Irish players wearing the poppy is a bit of an elephant in the room to a degree, in the sense that obviously James McLean has taken a stance, and other players wouldn't have taken the stance, and you feel sometimes he's been left flying solo on it a bit. So you have to put the question to someone, and Stephen Kelly answered just around the time that Sheffield United scored. And actually, Kieran Clark scored for Newcastle, and he belted, put him under pressure in the studio just at the wrong moment. But I'm sure people can see that clip.
On Saturdays, when an Irish player scores in the Premier League, a quick blast of put him under pressure happens.
Yes.
Where did you stand on the poppy, Stephen? Was it just something that was put on the jersey and you put it on?
Yeah, like I wouldn't be as forthcoming as McLean would have been not to wear it. It was just one of those things. It was put on the jersey I wore and got on with it. I didn't see it as being disrespectful, or I think, you know, my granddad fought in both world wars, so it was kind of okay. You know what I mean? For the English Army. It was more, you know, I understand why in Ireland we don't wear it because of all the troubles and what was happening with the British Army and stuff like that. So it's, you know, from that sense. But when I was playing in England, I was playing for the team, I was just respecting what their wishes were, basically.
Well, I don't know if that's the most appropriate timing of all time.
Let's take a moment to remember.
Yeah.
I apologise straight up, Stephen. That should not.
I think we've abused the poppy there. We've actually forgotten all our fallen heroes.
See, like, that's probably the most. Like,
Was it Tranmere Rovers who also abused the poppy at the weekend with the poppy mascot? Was
yeah,
that
the suggestion. There's a suggestion that might have been from last year, but it went round on Saturday. I mean, it could have happened this year. I mean, it's not as if we've taken a more reasoned stance across the course of the 12 months. Yeah, it was the giant mascot and sort of clown shoes.
Yeah.
As was pointed out, the poppy wasn't actually wearing a poppy, so it was that disrespectful.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if it is a poppy, does it have to wear a poppy? It probably does.
Where does the poppy end?
Yeah,
does it have to be a poppy within that poppy? I mean,
that's the whole point,
where does it stop? The cycle of the poppy.
Yeah, anything else in the papers?
We've got the Guardian here again, a similar team. Take it as read. Liverpool move 8 clear. At the top of Guardiola fumes about VAR, so it's a familiar point. And also the Racing Post, the front page, Navin shock as 1-4 Apples as no answer to Bacardi's. That's, Apple's Jade. Shortest price defeat of her racing career, lost to Bacardi's, but really good racing at Navin generally. So
Bacardi was supposed to be a great horse, like that everybody was piling into a couple of Cheltenham's back.
Bacardi, yeah.
To deceive a bit and then came back, and so he's obviously a good horse.
Yeah, really good horse. Has actually sort of had a slightly, erratic jumping record in terms of, like, fell at the last in the Stayers Hurdle one year, and almost when you expect Bacardi's to deliver, it hasn't always happened. When chasing, didn't quite fire, but on his day, very talented, and showed it yesterday. So there's a Paul Nichols stable tour in the Racing Post as well, 8 pages of it there. I was reading through it earlier. So the winter is around. There's some really good horse racing over the weekend, some really exciting young horses. Andy Dufresne at Navin yesterday, great name, and great horse by the looks of it. So JP McManus, possible star of the future, that will become one of those names, across the winter that people will be become attached to.
Beat somebody good, Andy Dufresne?
It was a good maiden hurdle,
right.
Like one of these really good early season hurdles, and there was a Willie Mullins horse in the race, Rich Ritchie, which didn't actually really fire, but it almost didn't matter in a way. Andy Dufresne won so impressively. It wouldn't have been stopped by anyone, I don't think.
All right, and then some of the rugby from the weekend. Blues, an ideal place to begin their drive for 5. This is an intercept try that just put the tin hat on it for James Lowe against Connacht over at the sports ground. The game was over after about 15 minutes because Leinster had already racked up 3 tries at that point, but it was a bit of a paddling for Connacht. And then Munster won down and dirty against Ulster at Thomond at the weekend as well for that one. And then in the GA, the big story, obviously, East Kerry winning the Kerry title, which means Austin Stacks are actually going to go ahead and play for Kerry in the Munster Championship because they won the Kerry Championship as opposed to the...
This is a bit of an alien world to me. But I love the fact that it has an impact on the captaincy as well. For, like, David Clifford could be Kerry captain now.
Yeah, yeah. So, Jack Sherwood or Darren Moynihan as well are on the team, but maybe you just give it to Clifford and you go...
That seems to be what people were talking about yesterday.
So there's a picture of the goal there as well. So they beat Dr. Crokes, who obviously have dominated the last decade and there's a strong shout that it's going to be East Kerry's decade next. So it's funny, that team that wins yesterday gets to nominate the captain, not the team who won the earlier Kerry, whatever it's called, championship, county final. So you know that the clubs all play in the county final and they have a championship later on where...
Yeah, look, I was familiar. There's something about it that's different to the others, but it's all...
Yeah, it's funny how...
Kerry.
It's funny how Kerry have been doing this since the year dot, and they're the winningest team in the history of... And most other counties are going, Jesus, it's a bit complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe we should look at this in some shape or form. Yeah.
Exactly. So, because obviously Clifford's from a junior club and wouldn't get this level of club competition unless they had the opportunity to do this. Although they're not junior anymore, I don't think, but they would have been in the past. And loads of players who only played for little small teams get to step up and test themselves against better competition.
Interesting. Very good soccer player, Clifford, as well, actually.
Is he, yeah?
Oh, he was, yeah. He played in a lot of representative tournaments and stuff when he was younger, up until like 14, 16.
Right.
Like,
somebody needs to go down and tap him on the shoulder and say, come on.
Well, he was a centre half.
Right.
He was a very good centre half. So I've spoken to a couple of players from Kerry who've made their way in the game, who've played against them, and all very complimentary. Not necessarily convinced, he would have been a star, but definitely good enough to like operate at a decent level if he'd wanted.
Yeah, okay. And St Thomas has won the Galway Senior Hurling Championship title. That's their fourth win this decade. Clearly the team of the decade. They won their first ever in 2012, so congratulations to them as well. All right, if there's some of the pictures from around the weekend. That's St Thomas's, I think. And then here is the Irish News. Thugs, no. Bullies, no. The best hurlers in Ulster. Schlockneil boss McShane hails players after final win over Dunloy. So Schlockneil are Ulster club hurling champions. And then the lead on offtheball.com this morning, Jurgen Klopp welcomes Sean Cox and his family to Anfield. It was a wonderful day. Pictures of the game of himself and Van Dijk afterwards. And we've got a poll running as well. Is it way too early? Oh, come on. 66% of you think it's too early to be crowning Liverpool champions. I'm not so sure. Chelsea are too inconsistent. City's defence are in ribbons. Leicester aren't winning the league this year, right? So, where's the little things to tell me how you voted, Tommy? Did you manage to? You Photoshop that out? Did you?
That's pretty intelligent. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Diplomatic.
All right, 8:02. Football next here on OTB AM. Kenny Cunningham's going to join us after this.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.